Hello and welcome to Matchday Matinee, the show where we rank and review every single damn football movie the world has ever created. And as ever, I'm joined by Raghav and Mark. How you doing, guys?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Spent most of my evening playing the new Football Manager beta that just came out, because if you bought it, you get access.
Ooh.
And they actually made it seem like new match engine and stuff, and new graphics. It's all still the same game. Still spreadsheets for football fans, right? What have you guys?
Basically, it's not a demo, right? It's a full version.
Yeah, it's a full game, and it copies over to the full game.
Final version.
Yeah, there's just bugs, I guess. Like sometimes text disappears and stuff, or the match engine's wonky sometimes. But yeah, obviously.
So you pay to be a beta tester, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. Either of you been up to anything fun?
Keeping busy. I went for a bike ride the other day, and I came across an actual movie set.
Oh, yeah. I saw you posted pictures of it. What was it?
Yeah, they're filming a Kevin Hart movie, Kaylee Cuoco, Woody Harrelson, at the conservation area by my house, Heart Lake.
Oh, yeah.
That was kind of cool. I flashed my Matchday matinee credentials, but it didn't get me anywhere. So we're not recognized yet.
Not yet. Raghav, what have you been up to?
Just enjoying the weekend. We were blessed with great weather, plus 20 degrees for a couple of days. So just out and about, walks, runs, patios. And yeah, that's about it.
Nice. You guys ready to dive into this week's movie then?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this week we are doing The Keeper, aka Trautmann, which is a British-German biographical film about the titular keeper, Bert Trautmann, who was a German POW who overcame prejudice, public hostility, and personal tragedy to become something of an icon. The movie is directed by Markus Rosenmüller. It stars David Cross and Freya Mavor. It's produced by Zephyr Films. It is 119 minutes long, and it is an English-German production that cost $11 million to make. Kind of hard to find box office figures for it. I could only find the international gross, which was 1.9 million, which would have meant it lost a lot of money. But I can't see that being the case, as when we get into it. This was a pretty good film. What did you guys think of it? Raghav.
I really enjoyed this movie. It was, I think, the tone that it sets based on the period it's showing. So, there's a certain kind of visualization you see of the 1940s period when he's a POW, but then as the movie keeps going along to the 1950s, you kind of see things change a little bit and his story progress and him mature as a man and as a player. And of course, the theme of the movie, I love things that deal with World War II and things like that. So yeah, overall, I thought it was a great movie with a great story, with a lot of character development. Just overall really enjoyed it.
Mark, how about you?
Yeah, same here. I really enjoyed it, and I was surprised when you said 11 million for the budget, because it's a really gorgeous movie. So I have no idea how budgets work sometimes for movies. I mean, you see a $200 million movie and it looks nothing like this, but for 11 million, they made it really work. It looked gorgeous, and as Raghav was saying, like the themes are so even relevant now. I know this movie was made like a year ago, but like now more so than ever, right? Like divisiveness and how you come together as a community or accept people who have different views. And the real life story of Trautmann, like he did devote himself to the Nazi cause, right? He was repentant about it afterwards, but he did have those beliefs. And then how did he integrate himself into English society after? And the way this film deals with it, I really enjoyed. And then just his personal tale of tragedy as well was really interesting turn in the movie. So yeah. I don't want to say much more than that right now.
No. Come as no surprise, I'm kind of the same. I think we were all expecting this one to be good. It is one of those few films that has like a really good Rotten Tomatoes score, and it kind of didn't let us down. So let's dive straight into the plot, and we can talk about it a bit more. So we start in 1944 St. Helens quickly, and we see the British public dancing away. We initially think there's a power cut, and then the all too familiar sound, like if you've watched war movies, you'll have heard this sound before. The air raid sirens blares off as bombs start to drop. We cut to Germany, 1945, and we glimpse at kind of the disgusting conditions that troops are kind of in. They're like sat in a trench. One of them spits into a tin, and it's just disgusting, like mud. Like they do a really good job of it looking disgusting. We kind of see the soldiers advancing through the wood. A couple of them get shot, but Trautmann kind of survives and is taken prisoner. We cut to a POW camp in Lancashire, where they kind of read their rights. They are told that Jawohl is not acceptable, and they should start saying yes, sir. And it's kind of here. I thought about Escape to Victory here. It's kind of like they're held as prisoners. They're shown like respect to some degree, even though Smythe, the sergeant in charge, is clearly has a lot of pent-up hatred for Nazis, and he doesn't think they should even be in there. But the fact that they're POWs, they kind of have that respect.
Dudley Dursley, right? Dursley? Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, right?
Now you've
He
said
grew
that.
up, lost a lot of weight.
Lost
Yeah,
a lot
Dudley
of
Dursley.
weight. Okay,
Yeah.
I missed that.
He's really
one.
good in this.
Yeah, so Smythe is, he kind of comes back later in the film and throughout the film, but yeah, he's a good villain. He's as close to a villain this movie kind of has, actually.
Yes.
Other than the circumstances that Trautmann finds himself in.
There's one thing I wanted to highlight that I've kind of been researching a little bit. So this movie, I think the dates are a little bit off, because this movie makes it seem like he gets caught in 1944, unless I missed a subtitle somewhere, but it makes it seem like he got caught in 1944, and then right from the camp he was taken to basically play for St. Helens. Which in actuality, he was released from the prison camp in 1948 and then went to go play for St. Helens.
So I think they kind of talked to that, because I think those times when he's going in and out of the prison is meant to be the passing of time, kind of.
Sure.
But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, he didn't start playing for like 3 years in reality, but yeah. So yeah, this is like they did consult him for the film, but I guess maybe embellish some of the facts for comedic effect. So at this point, Trautmann's kind of says he's lucky to be alive. Someone kind of says, toe the line or you lose your luck. And then his bunkmate says, if you snore, I'm going to piss on you. And at this point, we see him clutching to a small wooden animal on a necklace, which will kind of become important as the film goes on. We find out he's a paratrooper and that he was somewhat forced into it. He has a medal, and he's asked by Smythe what this medal's up for, and this is where Smythe starts to like tell us of his hatred. He said if it was up to him, there would be a mass grave for them all. He says we're going to have a lot of fun with you, Mr. Trautmann. It's here that we kind of learn that he's the keeper, because that's the first mention we get of his name. He's cleaning out toilets that look disgusting, and he sees some lads playing football and smiles. He goes out there and kind of says he can save every single shot that they throw at him, and he'll quadruple all their cigarettes for anyone that scores a goal. And what do you know? He pretty much saves every penalty. It's a pretty cool little scene. And this is where a young lady steps out of a car. Her dad's doing deliveries to the camp. We find out that this woman is Margaret, and she is ready to have a pop. I don't know if you guys noticed, but her dad, Jack, he was also in When Saturday Comes. But I couldn't remember what role he is. I had to look him up. He's credited as MC Springwood in When Saturday Comes. So I can't think if he's maybe the DJ when they're at the strip club or something, because he's got MC before his name. But he's a pretty famous actor for people that know him. He's called Jack. He's Jack, and he's called John Henshaw.
Oh, he would have been pretty young too, right? When Saturday Comes was like, what, 25 years old or something?
Yeah, so he may have been younger, skinnier. So that's perhaps why we're not recognizing. He sees Trautmann, and he's amazed at his penalty saving. Everyone gets angry when Margaret steps up to take a penalty. This is a bit weird. So it looks like she's having a bit of fun, like smiling, and she's attracted to Trautmann. But then she later reveals it's actually because she wanted to put one past him and show him up, because she hates Nazis as much as anybody. Yeah. And then we suddenly kind of jump forward, and the war is over. Germany surrenders. Smythe is all too happy to tell them all that their 1,000-year-old Reich has ended early, and that they need to wash the foulness out with their mouths.
What was that line he had? I wouldn't... Something about his piss.
Oh, I wouldn't give you the steam off my own piss.
Yeah. That's the first time I've heard that saying, but it's such a picturesque saying.
Yeah, it's
a
like
good
sounds
one.
like I wouldn't piss on you if you're on fire. It's
Yeah, I've heard that before,
yeah,
but yeah,
I
the
guess
steam
it's
off, yeah.
a deviation of that.
Very vivid.
Yeah. He offers them beer and he tells them that we're going to find the war criminals amongst you and then we'll have a re-education program. So we cut to some game where the keeper can't save anything at all. Jack says to him, you couldn't catch a cold. He bets on the next game £30 worth of sheep. There's a party that Alfie is a part of playing I think he plays the saxophone. He kind of refuses to end. So then Jack gets an idea that if he goes with some cigars to the commandant who he kind of offers services to, that he could get Trautmann out for the day and play in goal. He makes it pretty clear, I'm not your friend, just do what you do. You're here to play football. He says no to just playing football. He wants to, and he says it's up to you. Fritz, which was a common term. So Fritz originated as a name for nickname for Frederick, which was one of the early German emperors. But then ultimately became a term used by the British for German officers, much as the same way that British officers were known as Tommies by the Germans. He tries to comically introduce him as Bert from Bradford here, and then Bert starts talking and it's obvious he's German, pretty much. Like, he doesn't sound like a man from Bradford with a cold.
So ridiculous. How long did the dad think he would pull that off?
Yeah, like he was not going to talk for an entire game. We get our first sense of some footy flicks here. There's a couple of interesting points here that the posts are still square, which is something we don't see now. Like, they're big and rigid because they've long since rounded off goalposts now. And we'll get into footy flicks later, but he's a pretty convincing goalkeeper, which has to be said. Much more convincing than Sylvester Stallone.
Yep.
So he kind of carries on doing that. He goes back and forth to the camp. He also helps out in the shop. There's a funny scene. Bert steals his cigarettes. Jack realizes, and then later in the film he fills the cigarette box with what looks like Brill cream, like hair wax. There's a point here where he comes into the house after the war's over. He moves in and the grandma says, I went to Germany once, it was all sauerkraut and sausages, and then she says it made me fart like a bloody brewer's horse. This film's full of so many funny like little one-liners like that kind of get missed.
And she's been farting ever since. The
dad yells back at her. There's a really cute scene around here somewhere where Bert tries to force the little sister to kind of talk, and he's like doing all these like double negatives and saying, hey, so you can't talk to me, or you won't talk to me, or you shouldn't talk to me, and kind of tries to wrap her up. It's just a cute way, like he's trying to show that he's human, and like if the kid accepts him, then why can't everybody else? At this point Margaret interferes and says that she notices he isn't a monster and hating him would be easy. She kind of tells how bad their life's been after the war and during the war as well. Bert helps her put a canary back in a cage that they sell. This made me remember that canary breeding was kind of a big thing in England. It possibly still is. Like, my dad used to breed them when I was a kid and get trophies and take them to like shows.
Wow.
Best in shows, but for canaries.
Is that just like a domesticated pet thing, or like the coal mines type thing?
I don't know, but they'd be in cages, just in little cages. They never go out of the cages. We had like a row of cages, a wall of cages with like 20 canaries in them. Very bizarre. But this reminded me of that. But yeah, in this instance, I don't know if they're selling them for mining. He catches it with his bare hands, like showing how good a goalkeeper he really is. And it's at this point that we see like a major scene come up in the film that gets revisited several times. Trautmann watches a re-education video, Smythe looking on, staring at him, and it's showing footage of camps and war atrocities. And I guess it's intended to show them like, this is the hell you created. You guys, this is not cool that you did. It's trying to change their view. And Trautmann flashes back to when a fellow soldier stole a football from a kid. and then goes to shoot him. And in this version of the scene, we see Trautmann push the kid away. Push his friend away, sorry, so he misses the shot.
One of the interesting things I was reading was, so these prisoner war camps, they would actually put people into 3 groups, which was, I think, anti-Nazi, repentant, and just Nazi sympathizers.
Yeah, and
So
I think... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, and I think Trautmann was actually kept as a Nazi because he was a volunteer.
Oh, because he volunteered for the service.
Yeah, because he volunteered for the service, so he was considered a Nazi. Not even a Nazi sympathizer, he was considered a Nazi.
Yeah, and then so this would be part of their, I can't remember what they called it in the film, but the re-education service, which is kind of a cruel thing to do, right? To show these people, this is what you've done, but...
It's not humane in the least bit, right?
Yeah. But why were those guys dressed up as
women.
Clowns or women?
No,
yeah,
not
women?
a clue.
Yeah, I was wondering that too when I watched that scene, and I don't know. Maybe they thought they were going to some sort of masquerade, or maybe the British were trying to make fun of them. I don't know.
No, they were told they were going to be watching a comedy film.
Oh, so maybe that's why.
Might tricked them, but I didn't get why they would dress up as women for the comedy. But I guess
probably just a thing to do to set the tone. One more thing about that kid. I think it's insinuated that the kid's a Jewish kid.
Because he was speaking, what language would that be?
Yeah.
Yiddish? Yes.
Hebrew?
Yeah. Because they didn't understand him. Yeah. Or something. Or, Yiddish. Yeah. Okay, so we kind of cut to more games here. Oh, no, we're back in the camp. And then this is where, shortly after this, is where somebody tells Bert to go and clean the latrines, and he runs into the latrines and finds his friend Holtis hanging, and Bert's gunning for Sergeant Smythe, who's clearly, as a result of the re-education and his shitty comments, has basically made Holtis commit suicide, essentially. Smythe doesn't show remorse.
There was one, so that guy that got into the fight with Holthauser, was his name?
Holtis, yeah.
Holtis, yeah. When the war is over and they are celebrating with the fireworks and the champagne, I think that's when Smythe tells them that we're going to go through, each one of you, we're going to go through a re-education camp. And then Holthouse actually leans over to that character and says, you're in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then when Bert Trautmann first arrives at the camp, that guy quietly goes over to him and actually says, Hail Hitler. So he's very clearly kind of testing allegiances and loyalties to Hitler still, right, within the camp.
Yeah. Shortly after this, Jack gets the call to say all the prisoners have been sent back to Germany the day before the relegation decided that he's bet money on to buy these cheap sheep. Betty, who is Margaret's friend, gets excited that Lancashire camp's being closed and she's happy. Margaret isn't happy because she's obviously at this point started to fall in love with Bert, and she kind of tells her to get out with her antiquated views and kicks her out of the shop. And then Bert reappears and he moves in with a family. And then someone says to him, I suppose you're looking forward to getting back to Bremen. And then someone asks him if he's knocking on later, which means coming to knock on and see if he wants to hang out with her, kind of thing. Yeah. We get some more Footy Flicks here. They're playing, having a bad game. Bert comes on. They're all told at this point that a Manchester City scout is there. And Jack, we get this, the old Clough that we got in Damn United, where it's kind of seen mostly from his perspective, hanging out in the locker room and not looking. It's kind of done a little bit different. We do see more of the game here than we did before. They all have a party at the pub. Margaret sits bored with her boyfriend and his mates whilst Bert dances with somebody else. Eventually she plucks up the courage to go dance with Bert, and Bert sees this. Bill, her boyfriend, sees this and pissed off, so he starts a fight. They go out to take a penalty, and Bert's like, all right, no, take 3, and if you save 1, you get to keep her. And Bert's like, nah, 1 penalty. Bill's piss drunk, doing his...
He's so small. He can't even drag Bert out of the pub or whatever it was. He's struggling to pull him.
And then he's just stood on the...
Shorter.
Yeah, he stood on the pitch, piss wet, drunk. He's doing a really good, like, oh, I'm gonna get you, and like swaying and stuff.
What, mate?
Yeah, and then Bert doesn't even move to try and save the penalty, and he's like, it doesn't matter how many penalties you save, she will never be yours. But I'll go on, Margo.
Yeah, I think it's also important to highlight that I think it's just before this scene in the pub scene that Bert gets scouted
Yeah, so the
by Manchester City.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that's the same actor that was the coach in the first goal. When he plays in the Newcastle reserves,
Yes,
and he gets his inhaler broken by that other center back.
Yeah, the manager, Jock Thompson. I think he's the guy that is the one from
Yes,
goal.
Jock. That's it. Yeah,
I did write his name down somewhere on it.
Yeah,
We'll see. Might get to it.
No, but that was kind of cool to see. Just actors repeating in different movies we've watched.
Mm-hmm. So Bert gets home after this, and he goes to Margaret's room. Jack catches him and says, "If you want my little girl, let's like kind of have a drink." And he's like, "I like you. I have the benefit of getting to know you, but most can't, and you can't argue with the bereaved." And he's like, knowing Margaret, she'll carry that with you, which I wasn't quite sure. I had to rewind this bit because I wasn't sure what he was saying. I think he was saying she's one of the people that also suffers that baggage, and she might carry it into their relationship, kind of. So they kind of have this drink, and then Bert's like, "Okay, I'm not gonna go to Margaret's room. I'm just going to go to bed." And he goes to bed, and she's already in there ready, and she's kind of said, "I don't always have to do as my dad says." They kind of have their fun, and the scene transitions without initially indicating that there's been a shift in time, until you kind of notice like a wedding dress on the end of the bed, and we've kind of transitioned a bit in time, and Bert is training now, and Jack yells at him, "I've got a hangover from your wedding," and that's like where we start to think, and like he yells to Margaret, "You've married a lunatic." And then we cut forward even more. It's a little jump in time to 1949 Manchester, which is very industrial at this point. So it's before like all the cotton mills and everything had started to close down. We're at a press conference. This seems a very like delightful way of holding a press conference. Very different to how they are now. Like they're all very prim and proper. Yeah. There's no like Jose Mourinho making snide remarks or anything. And inevitably the questions go. They start nicely. Like, when you were a POW, did you think you'd be a goalkeeper? He tells about their childhood. They ask him. Manchester has a big Jewish community, which it does to this day. They start to question how he can like defend himself, saying he had no choice in the matter when he was actually a volunteer, and also that he got an Iron Cross. Margaret's kind of pissed at this point because she didn't know that he had an Iron Cross, which is usually awarded for some sort of commendable service. She kind of says to him, "Hey, I don't know what's going on in your kraut head," and she's clearly hurt. The chairman starts to have regrets, but the team kind of all seem to be behind him at this point. Like, there's the manager's definitely behind him, and the team, we get scenes there. But when he goes out into the stadium, he is not warmly accepted. They do a really good job of like old packed in stadium, like when you're walking in, like the old terraces, like they're all like screaming down at him, yelling. It's really good.
It's such a contrast, like looking at these footy scenes from like 70 years ago, like even on the kits, it's just the emblem, right? No sponsor, not even the kit manufacturer. You look at the boards and it's just so clean, and it's just the sport itself, right? Like contrast that today, and like wherever you can get an ad there, it's there.
Absolutely.
I really liked, aside from, like, moving on from that, like the attention to detail. Like the pitch wasn't immaculately green and smooth. The stadium was like large concrete block, no seats and stuff. It's around this time that Margaret also pulls out a speech about how we should forgive, and whilst Jesse did some of the terrible things, some of you aren't better. We get a quick match here. He saves a whole bunch whilst a rabbi looks on, and this guy is revealed to be Rabbi Altman, who is ultimately impressed by Trautmann's performance and writes an open letter to the newspaper. And he says the Jewish community will not make a concerted effort to boycott Manchester City, which the chairman kind of alludes to earlier, it's a genuine fear that they will boycott the team and they have so many Jewish season ticket holders that Manchester City might not survive if they don't. And he says each must be judged on his own merits. We have
Is there a bigger Jewish following for like Man City versus Man United, or is it just kind of?
I think it's kind of all across the board. I think Manchester in general is just a huge Jewish population. I don't think that necessarily transcends on one team. Yeah, on one team.
And
yeah.
I guess Man City with a smaller team. Like when he joined them, they were in the second division. So I just think it's just the reality of them not being the bigger team, that they would have been more fretful of losing such a big support base. At this point, Bert has to rush home after a game when it's revealed that Margaret has had a baby. We get some awesome archive footage at this point with some of the great old like commentary style, and it kind of whizzes through the years, allows for a really quick passing of time, and then we ultimately see him get like an applause from both teams, and he's kind of become a real hero. And we've whizzed through a whole bunch of years because we're now at 1956, which is the Wembley Cup final, or the year that the Cup final was. Before that, we get them going to on holiday, and we get a really nice rendition of the Blue Moon, which the Manchester City fans sing as they go out. And it's just they're on like a beautiful holiday out at the beach. It's like super idyllic with their kid and stuff playing.
Yeah, it's the two actors in this, Freya Mayer, I think her name is.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the guy's name.
David Cross. Yeah.
They have such good chemistry. Like the two of them just connect right away, and then they add the kid into the equation, and usually that kind of brings it down because kid's a terrible actor. But no, like
I think they use the kid cleverly, like sparingly, and it works.
They kind of let him be himself, and the whole scene is so good with the puppets, and they just build that family unit that you just kind of fall in love with. So
punching Julia.
I think the interaction between characters in general and the chemistry between all of them are actually really good in this movie. Even when he's talking to John Henshaw's character, I think it's funny. It goes from a situation where towards the beginning of the movie he's a little bit rude to him. John Henshaw's character is, but then he starts liking him, and they end up having quite a close knit relationship. Same when they invited him over to stay for that week. And this wasn't a huge relationship that was shown in the movie, but his relationship with the mother, John Henshaw's character's wife, it was just beautiful. And then at the pub, they're shown dancing together, right?
Yeah.
I just think the interaction between the characters was awesome.
Yeah, it's every scene. It's really well directed, and then on top of that, it's such a touching movie. And another thing that weaves in and out of every single scene is the music, like the swing music that just kind of builds up so nicely. And like it had me tapping my foot in every scene.
Totally.
And they work it in perfectly. And like you're saying, Blue Moon during that scene on the beach was just
worked so well.
Cherry on top.
Really good. So we cut to Cup final day. At this point we get a rendition of Abide With Me, which to some people might not recognise. That's sung rather than the national anthem. So since 1927, it's been played. The first and last verses of the hymn are traditionally sung at the FA Cup final, 15 minutes before the kickoff. It's also sung at the kickoff of every Rugby League Challenge Cup final as well. People kind of associate a little bit more with rugby. They do a really good job here of showing the scale of Wembley Stadium and stuff, like as a good contrast to the city, whatever it would have been called, Main Road, Manchester City's ground. So the game's 3-1 to Manchester City. Bert comes down on his head after somebody kicks him in the knee and he's injured. We see flashbacks of some of his trauma again, kind of remembering things from the war. They're down to 10 men, as this was before substitutes were introduced. Substitutes didn't get introduced until 1965. We at this point revealed, it kind of cuts forward to Margaret being in the hospital, and we find out he had a broken vertebrae, and that by the way it broke, it had kind of cascaded on itself and like crunched in, and any amount of hit at the wrong angle would have just completely shattered it and killed him. And it just keeps cutting back to him, like falling again, making a save, falling again, or landing.
Have you guys ever seen? Have you ever seen that viral video of like the goalies and the keepers in net, and he just keeps on getting hit with penalty hits, and then they just kind of like prop him up. They're like, "Oh my god, what amazing saves!" And they put him like a chair. At one point, he just keeps getting hit in the face. Like it almost looked like that video where it's kind of comical.
And it's just like unbelievable that he managed to play on like that and just didn't.
It's true. Like it
Yeah,
actually
like,
happened, right?
it
I think it was
actually
3 days
happened.
later that he discovered it.
Yeah, like he didn't go to. He celebrated with them all, even though he was clearly in pain. He was in hospital. Like they cut to him being in hospital, and he's basically paralyzed. Like he's in a version of traction, I guess. Like he has this weird dome helmet on with a little bit of plaster sticking out, that's kind of keeping him to the bed. And this is where, like, this is another like brilliant performance by him. We just see him basically like paralyzed in the bed at nighttime, like recounting basically the version of that little boy and what happened. This is where it's kind of revealed that the version of the little boy before didn't really happen as he played out in his mind. In fact, when his comrade went to shoot the boy, he didn't step in because I guess maybe he was his commanding officer, or even anyway, if the boy was Jewish, then by the Nazi principles, he was worthless and could die to them as far as they're concerned. And then that's where we kind of reveal that he didn't do that, and that's where that wooden good luck charm from the boy came. He went to his kind of corpse afterwards and picked it off his body. So really poignant scene. And then that's followed by another like horrific scene where he calls Margaret, and the sound of the ice cream van's heard in the background, and the boy's like, I want an ice cream. And she's like, no, you don't need one. But then Bert's on the phone. He's like, give him the money, go get one. And then he runs out. I guess he gets the ice cream, gives the man too much change, and the guy's like, hey, you've left me too much. The boy
I think he was chasing his ball, right?
Yeah,
he was chasing his ball back to his
ball in his hand, and he drops it as he turns to look back at the ice cream man and runs out into the street. And a car hits him, and you see it from like Margaret's point of view, and she just drops the phone and then like runs out, and it's just horrific.
Yeah, such a gut-wrenching scene. Like you think there's always like a bit of tragedy with triumph, and you think that Bert's neck being broken is that kind of contrast to the triumph, but it gets even worse, and it's so hard to watch. It almost reminded me of have you guys seen $1 Million Baby?
Yes.
Where it's a good movie, it's kind of like feel good, and there's a bit of triumph, and then there's this like turn in the movie where it just goes so dour, and you just have that pit in your stomach where it's.
And you know nothing's going to happen.
Anymore.
Both instances, you know nothing's going to happen to retrieve the situation. Like,
you don't want to watch, but you hope there's some redemption to the storyline. But it's so tough to watch.
And you also see it, like you were saying, from Margaret's point of view, and you don't really see the kid getting hit. But I think that's what makes it, just the way it's shot, is what makes it even more gut wrenching. And then the screams that you hear from Margaret, I think, really just hit that.
Screams like truly like gut wrenching.
And after they did such a good job of building up that scene at the beach where you actually do love this family unit, and
like it doesn't matter if we don't actually see any of the kid and the kid's just there in the background. A bit similar to Summer of '92, how they built up Lily, the little kid that was in hospital. Like that.
But I think they said that during the credits that she passed away, right? It wasn't during the film.
So then the funeral kind of takes place. They come back home, and it's another example. Like they have really good chemistry of both being like dead inside, but still consoling each other. They kind of start to kiss and stuff, and then she just breaks down crying. Bert goes to the cemetery, and Sergeant Smythe is there, and he comes over to pass his condolences. And it's revealed that his wife and 2 children are buried there, and that they died when Manchester was bombed, kind of revealing his motivation behind hating them. And he encourages Bert to play on for all the people that accepted him. And despite this, Bert's like, F you, I don't want your advice, and have a fight in the cemetery, which is ridiculous.
And he gives him back the bird at this point.
Yes.
The carved bird, which means he held on to it for about like 15 years at this point, was it?
We're past 56. Something like that. We see Bert and Margaret at this point back at the beach, but everything's a lot more dreary. They kind of both look like Margaret's taken a definite downturn and looks kind of bedraggled. Her hair's not quite there, and she's just got this deadpan look. And then she says, but then she still has like this grit in him, because she's kind of like, or grit and determination for him, kind of, about how he can't go into self-pity. And she says, I hear an ice cream van and the whole world falls apart. It's not all about you, and I'll be damned if you're going into self-pity. I've sacrificed everything for you. And he shows he believes in karma here and recounts how he didn't save that boy, and she kind of is just like, no, that's not what's happening here. We cut back to Abide With Me playing again, and Bert steps into the dressing room and everyone stands for him, and Jock Thompson, the manager, consoles him. And that's kind of where the movie ends. So as the film ends with footage of Trautmann's continuing Manchester City career, it's kind of overlaid with text that reveals Trautmann would continue to appear for Manchester City until 1964, making 545 appearances. After his last match, the fans dismantled the goals because they said they felt that no one could stand between his posts. He would be the first foreign awardee of the English Player of the Year title and be recognised by both Britain in the form of an OBE and the German governments as for his work in promoting Anglo-German relations. Looked up a bit of other stuff about him. He never played for the German national team, because the manager the German manager did speak to him at the time and kind of said, you're just not accessible to us. It doesn't matter how good we're reading about you. The fact that, and it's another thing people kind of forget how isolated Germany was, like post-war. Like there weren't a lot of options for them to leave. So like players leaving to play in international games would have been like a privileged position, and him coming back and forth would have probably been too complicated. And they wouldn't have had as much access. They would have literally only read about his performances in newspapers. They wouldn't have had as many TV things. They probably wouldn't have been able to send scouts over to watch him because, again, restrictive like travel. He went on to be a manager afterwards. In 1965 to 66, he managed Stockport County. And then he also managed a few German teams before. He managed Burma, Tanzania, Liberia, and Pakistan as well. So he did a couple of German teams, and then went on quite an international tour. And the film, so that's a bit more information. And then the film cuts to Bert and Margaret dancing again, and we're kind of told that Bert did die in 2013. Shortly before his death, he was consulted on this film for its depiction, and then we get a Manchester song again at the end. People would think it's Oasis, but it's actually Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. It's a really cool band. If people want an Oasis, they're not quite Oasis, but they're good in their own merits. I've seen them live. I definitely recommend them.
I think a couple of other things. Well, about Margaret specifically. So it says they had 2 more kids.
Yeah, so we kind of don't see that.
It said they had 2 more kids, and that Margaret died in 1980. But what the interesting thing is, he actually broke up with. He got divorced in 1960s, which the movie doesn't show.
No, because I don't think it suits the narrative, right? They want you to see them dancing and smiling and kind of being like, "Hey, their love transcended everything else."
Yeah, and he was married 2 more times after that and has kids from those marriages as well. I'm
kind of glad they didn't show them divorcing all that, because it ended on that like melancholy moment where they're sharing the dance together, and I don't think they've made their peace with losing their child, but they've kind of come to accept that they have to move forward with it, and they do have those 2 kids like you were saying, but I guess they never repaired that part of their marriage, which understandably.
Yeah. So that's all the plot, guys. Anything else before we talk about the Footy Flicks?
I think we pretty much just one thing I wanted to mention that I thought was a really cool transition in scenes is when they're playing in that FA Cup final, you obviously see the colored footage of the film, but then you also see some folks watching it on the television, and you see the black and white commentary style. I really like that transition of the same match, which I don't think we've really seen in any other film before.
Damned United did a bit of it, right? Where they use archival footage?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, damn it.
What about Summer of '92, where they did the bits where they showed the actual footage and then it cut to like they did it a lot. They used it a lot with Schmeichel, didn't they? Where it would cut to the actual footage of Schmeichel making a save, and then cut to the actor like holding the ball and stuff. And they did it for the penalty shootout, right?
They did.
Summer of '92 barely had any actual Footy Flicks, right? I think they just used archival, and then they had that shootout where they used like a kind of soundstage with just darkness all around the net, like a spotlight on the net.
Like actors for like the after shots, but not actually
Yeah.
doing the football itself.
And that's such a good way to do it if you don't have the budget to actually
so well
pull it off properly. Yeah, just get the actual footage.
Yeah. Okay, so Footy Flicks then. Gonna say, think they were pretty good because, like, we saw a lot. There was a lot of Footy Flicks when he played for the St Helens team, and because like you're talking like olden times, like heavier ball, bobbly pitches and stuff, didn't have to be as skillful. So if the ball's bobbling all over the place, didn't really matter. Let them dribble in it, not look too great. And then also Trautmann, like, he was a genuinely like convincing keeper, like made good saves. Like, Christ knows how many takes some of them might have taken. But yeah, David Cross did a decent job. And then again, like the Wembley scenes were just like a heightened version of that. Looked good. When he had his broken neck, we kind of saw a lot of good saves. Yeah. So what was your guys' view on the Footy Flicks? Any highlights you might have?
Same thing. I think they nailed the authenticity of it. Everything looked great. And like you were saying, it's like early it was like mid 1900s footy. So it didn't need to be very technical. They got some of those like mud scenes in, which Regev loved. But yeah, they did a great job with it.
Like dirty football, yeah.
General, I thought they were awesome, authentic. Just really reflected the time that the movie is supposed to be taking place in. So I really like that. Not really a footy flick, but I agree with you, Adam, where showing the old school stadiums as part of that, as part of those scenes, I think was some of my favorite stuff. But I would say if I had to pick a favorite footy scene, it's probably his saves during St. Helens' first match. I would say he just looks so acrobatic, and then his distribution. It reminded me of Alisson a little bit from Liverpool.
Mm-hmm. That surprises everyone too.
Yeah. No, I thought that was cool.
There's also a moment when he started doing keep-ups.
Yes,
yeah,
he kind of had everyone mystified, and
he saw Margaret.
That's kind of when people started to see him as more than a German soldier, right? Which is cool. Yeah, that's probably my favorite part.
Kind of dances as well, like does a bit of ballet before he starts doing the keepy uppies or something, like pirouetting or something.
So maybe he's alluding to, what did he say to?
No, this is because Margaret said she loves dancing and she thinks football's barbaric, and he's like, well, football, if you think about it, is just like dancing. So he's showing off to show her that, look, it's exactly like dancing.
Yeah, I'd rather be dancing with you than on the battlefield as well, right? Was one line he had.
One line.
Yeah, that is one line.
Which is one thing. There's a lot of corny lines in this like that, but they kind of work in the context of this film. And I think it comes down to the chemistry, right? If they had no chemistry, which, I mean, I end up watching or half watching a lot of dodgy romantic comedies that my wife's watching, and I'll catch bits of it. And you have two lead actors that have no chemistry, and it's just corny joke after corny joke, and it just doesn't work. But these do work because it's like
the W Network.
Yeah, all the trash. Like,
I just ordered Stack TV for my wife, so she has all the Christmas movies, which they start playing. I don't think you should start celebrating Christmas until after Remembrance Day. But it seems like November 1st now, they just start right away. And I think it's disrespectful to do that, right?
Yeah.
But it's Christmas music and everything right away. Like, at least give people Remembrance Day to honor
as soon as November 3rd.
People's sacrifice,
As soon as November 1st came, there was Christmas movies everywhere, right?
Yeah, ridiculous, man. The main actress, so she was in Skins. But I stopped watching it for the first couple seasons.
She was in the last cohort. So there's the beginning too, the one with Dev Patel was the first one, then the one with Adam and Effie was the second one, and then these guys.
Effie was in the first cohort though, right? She was
Effie was the younger sister. She wasn't a main. She wasn't a main, but in the second one she became a main character.
So I stopped watching halfway through the second one.
Yeah, I stopped watching. I might have only watched the first season. I forget.
I love the second one. Just because of how ridiculous Adam Cook is in that. Yeah.
Remember the blonde kind of pixie airhead girl? Was that the first cohort?
No, that's the first cohort. Andromeda, her name is, right, or something like that.
And she ends up moving away to like a different part, or you think she moves to America at the end of it?
Is it? I don't remember.
That's the last part that I watched.
She goes out with that Nigerian character, right? That's the one you're talking about.
I can't remember. That's probably when you binge stuff.
Yeah, you don't actually remember.
You don't remember any of it. Yeah.
But you have fun along the way.
I don't know, man. I used to like Skins. Anyways,
I digress. That's where all these people come from. They've been in Harry Potter, Skins, or When Saturday Comes. Okay, anything else on the Footy Flicks before we jump into trivia?
No.
Good stuff.
Okay, we loved this film. It was pretty good. Watch it. The other thing is, well, really long film. Doesn't feel like it's like 2 hours long. Doesn't really. It goes along at a fair clip, and I think because it jumps through different time periods and it works.
Yeah.
Actually, that is something I was thinking about towards the end. I think after the child or his child gets killed in the car accident, I feel like it did drag on a little bit towards the end.
And that was only like, I think, 25 minutes because I looked at the time when that scene was playing out, and it was like 29 minutes into it.
Yeah.
And it's such a small part of the movie, but you're right, it feels like almost half the movie at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like, okay, when's this going to end? Like,
but by the same thing, I feel like it rushed through some of the tragedy stuff. I feel like him recovering from his... Like, we didn't see any of his rehabilitation, really.
No.
We saw... I don't know, it's weird, but I think that's a testament to the two actors, that they were able to convince us with not... So much time was taken up with the pre-war, or like up to him signing for Manchester City.
Yeah.
That they didn't have the luxury of time to like flesh out any more of their family life, but I don't think they needed to. It's not to the detriment of the movie.
Yeah. But Trautmann's actual war stories are pretty incredible. I mean, the stuff that he did before the movie even kicks in when he gets captured. There was no actual child story, but I think he saw a German, what are they called? Like death...
it's Death Squad, yeah.
Death Squad, mow down like an entire group of women and children.
Yeah.
And he crawled away with one of his friends in the army because he figured he would be shot too if he was a witness.
Wasn't he... I think there's also a stat where he's like in the top percentile of people that actually survived in his platoon.
Yeah, out of the 1,000 people, he was one of the 90 that survived.
Well, one of the 90 that survived. Yeah, there you go.
And then on top, he was captured in Russia, I think. He was captured by Russians, and he was held for 3 days, or he escaped after 3 days, or something like that. Like his actual war stories are incredible.
Nice.
Which may be covered in his book, which was called...
Something Journey, Trautmann's Journey.
Something like that. I had it somewhere on here, and now I can't find it.
I think it's Trautmann's Journey. There's a really good Guardian article.
Steps to Wembley, his book's called.
Oh, that's a different one. There's two then.
Oh, so yeah, that came out he published that in 1956. So I guess just after they won the cup. So maybe he wrote one later in life.
There's this one, yeah. There's a good Guardian article that we'll share on our Twitter for sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Super cool. Died aged 89 after having 2 heart attacks earlier in the year. Very fondly remembered from like keepers of that generation shortly after that. So like Bob Wilson, who used to be Arsenal goalkeeper, said how he helped bring the warring nations together. So yeah, cool guy. Right, let's do some trivia, guys. I went for something predictable. It's going to be about German football with a little bit of English football too. So, just to recount the scores, Ragav in the lead with 11. And me and Mark are both second with 8 points.
Could catch up.
Yeah. And I've sort of technically got 2 games in hand because I've done 2 movies back to back. So I'm cool. If you guys, even if you guys get max points here, I'm still comfortable that I could pull it out of the bag. So the first question is, which of these teams has not won the Champions League or European Cup as it used to be known? Bayern Munich, Werder Bremen, Borussia Dortmund, or Hamburg? Ragav, we'll go with you first.
I am going to go with Borussia Dortmund.
Okay. Mark?
You say Bremen?
You're both wrong. No, wait. Mark, you are right. Sorry. I'm reading the wrong stat. So Borussia Dortmund won it in... 1997, they beat Juventus 3-1. It was a shock win. Bayern Munich have won it multiple times: 74, 75, 76, 2001, 2003, and 2020, or 2020, sorry. And Hamburg won it in 1983.
That was going to be my other choice.
Yeah, that's right. Dortmund did win in the 90s, didn't they?
Yeah, that's the reason Dortmund are kind of my German team.
Oh.
because my brother supports Newcastle, and he liked Juventus, and they beat Juventus. So then I was like, right, I'm just going to support Dortmund just for the shits, and they won. So I've kind of liked them ever since then, and like vaguely followed their results.
All right. I gotta redeem it.
Okay, next one. And Mark will go first with you on this one. Who is Germany's most capped player of all time? Philipp Lahm, Lothar Matthäus, Oliver Kahn, or Franz Beckenbauer?
I think it's Oliver Kahn.
Okay, Raghav.
I think it's Philipp Lahm.
You are both wrong. It was Lothar Matthäus. I'll give you the run-up. Oliver Kahn, 4th place with 86. Then Franz Beckenbauer with 103. Then Philipp Lahm with 113. And then Lothar Matthäus with a whopping 150.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It wasn't even close.
Okay, so next round, somebody is definitely going to get a point here. There are 33 German players who have played for the top 6 in England. So Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City, and Spurs, and Manchester United. We're just going to keep going until we run out of German players. I don't completely know when this list was collated, because I noticed a couple of them, it says present and they've left. So we might have to Google some if you say players that aren't on this list, but I will accept them. Raghav, will go with you. A German player that has played for one of the top 6.
Dietmar Hamann.
He has to be on this list, surely. Yep, he played for Liverpool and Manchester City, actually. 1996 to 2006 for Liverpool, and then 2006 to 2009 for Man City. Mark, a German player that's played for the top 6.
I don't watch English soccer. Klinsmann?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that is a nice pull.
Okay.
He is in here somewhere. Let me just find him so I can tick him off. Jurgen Klinsmann played for Tottenham twice, 94, 95, and 97, 98. Raghav.
Michael Ballack.
Michael Ballack must be on here somewhere. He played for Chelsea for that 4 seasons between, 2006, 2010. Michael Ballack. Mark.
I've got 2 names. I don't think either of them. Oliver Kahn?
He did not.
I gotta watch more English soccer, man.
So Raghav gets the point.
My next
And
one.
German soccer.
Marcus Babbel.
Go on. Okay, let's see how many Raghav can go. So Marcus Babbel, played for Liverpool. Fullback, was he? I think. Yep. Okay.
Jens Lehmann.
Jens Lehmann played for Arsenal. Yep.
So who are this? Wait, top 6: Chelsea, United, Liverpool, Tottenham.
Tottenham and Man City. I have here.
Jens Lehmann. Not Oliver Kahn, because you never. I'm thinking goalkeepers. Leno.
He is not on this list, but I believe he is German. Yeah.
Is there that
Yeah,
few?
he's
That
German.
Andre Schürrle for Chelsea.
Yep, he's on here 2013 to 2015.
Timo Werner, if you want to count current.
Yep, he's on. I will accept that, even though he's not on this list.
Why can't I think of any City players that were German? Huh? Or Man United players.
Man City have the most. Man United actually only have 1. Currently, last played in MLS. I don't know if he's still there.
Sebastian Schweinsteiger.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. No, he retired, right? Chicago?
He retired now, I think. I can't remember who City have ever had.
They have
German.
quite a few. Should we
Yeah,
go
sure.
through
Go ahead.
all of them?
Yeah.
Okay, so Arsenal, we have Serge Gnabry, Stefan Maz, Alberto Mendes, Bert Mertesacker, Mustafi, Ozil still plays for them, Podolski.
Well, he never played.
Chelsea, we have Robert. Yeah, he doesn't. I say play in the loosest term. He's still contracted to Arsenal.
Wait, would you have taken Bert Trautmann?
No, Premier League era.
Oh, okay.
That would have been, yeah. No, that would have been.
I'm disappointed not getting Ozil and Mertesacker for sure.
And then Chelsea, we have Robert Huff, Marco Marin, Antonio Rudiger, who's there now. Liverpool, we have Emre Can,
Oh, fuck.
Laureus Carius, who's there currently, Karl-Heinz Riedler, Christian Ziege, and then
Yeah.
Sean Dundee, who's a weird one. So he was like born in South Africa, played for like Kaiserslautern Kickers, and got German citizenship, played for the B team, and then moved to Liverpool, played like twice, never scored, and then like disappeared.
Yeah.
Manchester City, we have Jerome Boateng, Michael Frontsek, who I've never heard of, Gundogan, who's there now, Maurizio Gandio, Ikrel Emery, Stefan Curl, Uwe Rosler, who's was Brentford manager, not sure if he still is, Leroy Sané, Marco Tanat, and in Tottenham we had Stefan Freud and English-born but a German citizen, Lewis Holtby.
Oh yeah, Holtby.
So scores on the doors after that. You both got 1 point each. So Raghav, you're still out in the lead with 12. Mark, you're in second with 9, and I'm trailing in 8th. So let's pull up that old Matchday Matinee table and see where we're going to rank the keeper. So just to recap, in 9th we have My English Soccer Adventure, 8th Penalty, 7th Captain Tsubasa, 6th Goal 2, 5 All the Freckles in the World, 4 Shaolin Soccer, 3 Goal of the Dead, 2nd When Saturday Comes, and still up top is Summer of 92. Raghav, where do you see this film falling?
Honestly, I've been thinking about this throughout this whole podcast, and I think this is going number 1 for me.
Wow. Big statement.
Yep. I think it just shades Summer of 92.
Mark.
I thought Summer 92 was perfect. And I'm trying to think now any flaws in this movie. It was good, but I think Summer 92 is just a touch better. It is nearly a flawless movie.
I kind of feel the same. I think it's hard, right? There's not a whole bunch of humor in this, and it's not trying to. Summer of 92, there was, but also it still had those serious moments.
Yeah.
I just like Summer of 92. It was so stylish as well.
Yeah, I just think this as a period piece
So
is so
92,
good. It is, but
28 years ago now, right?
I know,
it's a
but
more
just the way they've
relatable period, right?
this the way they've shown this makes
You know what it is?
Yeah.
Summer of 92 was such an upbeat, feel-good movie where the camaraderie between the guys was so much fun, and they still had that kind of like bittersweet stuff with the keeper's daughter. I can't remember what his name was.
Yeah.
Whereas Trautmann is a much more dour movie just because of its subject matter, and that's not a knock on it. They're both great movies, but I want to put Summer of 92 ahead just because it made me feel good watching it.
Right.
And that's not Trautmann's fault at all. So it's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
I went into it expecting it to be better than Summer of 92, but didn't come out feeling that way. And this is somebody like, I love war films. Again, like as a period piece, I think this did a really good job of a different side of that period. Like we saw the war, but we saw very little of it. We saw the POW camps, but we saw very little of it. We saw a much better like depiction of England through the ages, so like wartime, post-war, and then kind of a little bit past that again. But I'd rather rewatch Summer of 92. And that plays a lot into it for me, like the rewatchability.
I see that.
Yeah, and I do think, as tragic as the daughter's death was in this, the son's death, I still, quote unquote, prefer the daughter's death or the daughter's portrayal in Summer of 92. Like, I just think, like, the fact that you kind of don't see it on screen and then it kind of hits you. Just the way, like, the joy you see when she's watching her dad play in the final and stuff, and then at the end it shows you that text that she did get to see him win, but then passed away shortly afterwards. I just think there's a slightly better job there in a film that has way much more to handle than Trautmann does. Like, it's about an entire team.
Yeah.
And still has the time to dedicate that, where she's like what's her name? Lily Volver, was it? Like, she still has like a lasting impression in a film that has so much, and that's just one side story.
It's tough. It could be a coin flip for me. I mean, they're both great movies, but would I recommend one to somebody over the other? And Summer of '92 was subtitled, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Here's the other thing for me. So you're talking about recommendations. I can recommend The Keeper as a good movie that somebody should watch. I'd recommend Summer of '92 if you're interested in soccer.
The advantage that Summer of '92 has for me is that it was filmed in its native language with subtitles, whereas David Cross's performance in a couple of scenes slipped where he was using he was speaking English, and I guess that's not his native language. That's the only like difference between the two for me.
Yeah. For me, it's just The Keeper is basically if somebody was looking for a good movie to watch, a good indie film to watch, I'd be like, hey, The Keeper is a great movie. Summer of '92, it's more geared towards people that know about the Euros, that know about football.
I don't know. The other thing is not to think about last season too much, but all this season we've bigged up the moment where we are going to put Summer of '92 head to head with Damned United to kind of figure out which is better. As good as The Keeper is, I don't think it's in that discussion. Like, I would not be as excited about talking about Summer of '92 versus The Keeper versus Damned United. I just think Summer of '92 is the better movie.
That's the thing.
But Raghav, I do totally buy what you're saying about this. I think I could sit and watch this with my wife and she would get something out of it.
Yeah.
Whereas she would get absolutely nothing out of Summer of '92. She would probably be on her phone.
So you don't think so? There's a lot of fun stuff in Summer '92 when they're pulling up to the training camps and the girlfriend's in the car with him and he's telling her, I'm going to be at Real Madrid. And there was something with cheese that I remember.
You got to understand some stuff about football to really find that joke funny, right?
That's going to be nothing to her,
yeah. However, I'm going to contradict myself. I'm going to say that Matchday Matinee is about rating football films. So, so yeah, I mean, I'm happy to go either one or two. I don't think anything. Well, we'll talk about this some other time, but the Damned United is just too good.
I'm going to stick to one for me.
What's one?
It was one for Summer '92.
Okay. I could go down to two. It doesn't matter.
It's a two for me, definitely. I loved it and expected it to be better, but I don't think it was ultimately.
Okay. I could go down to two. That's all right.
Okay.
Very slim margin.
Okay. So, my English Soccer Adventures 10th, penalty 9th, Captain Tsubasa 8th, Goal 2, Living the Dream 7th, All the Freckles in the World 6th, Shaolin Soccer 5th, Goal of the Dead 4th, When Saturday Comes back down in 3rd after 1 week of being bumped up. And we slot in The Keeper at 2, and the Summer of '92 remains top for now.
Yeah.
Feels good, guys?
Feels good. Summer of '92 and The Keeper seem like the Liverpool and Manchester City of prior years, where they're just they're ahead, but they're ahead by a few points.
Yes. Like
compared to the third place team.
Yeah. They're both head and shoulders above the rest. I feel like.
And what was second last season?
Mike Bassett, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's well, no. I was gonna say that's pretty tight with Goal of the Dead for me, but no, it's not.
No, Mike Bassett's
up there.
I love Bassett.
Yeah.
I might watch that again.
Yeah, why not? Okay, so guys, without further ado, we'll say farewell for the night. Mark, where can people find you on the internet?
A3 Football on Instagram and Mark A3 on Twitter.
Awesome. And Raghav, where can people see you?
At Raghav Sandhu on Twitter and Instagram. That's it.
I am Joypad Goalposts on Instagram and Twitter. And of course, follow our main account, Matchday Matinee. Keep following us. We did a giveaway this past week where we gave away some limited edition Campiel scarves. So the winners will be getting notified very shortly and we'll be shipping them off to you. So keep an eye out. We will find other little bits of football knickknacks to give away. So keep an eye out for that. And without further ado, that's it, guys. So from the terrace to the theatre of dreams, we are Matchday Matinee. See you later.